Hello, and welcome to
Bell on Earth.
My name is Cassidy,
My name is Casey.
and together we are the Bell Sisters. Join us each week as we corrupt your soul,
And bring you to salvation.
discussing life, death, and everything in between.
Are you afraid of getting into heaven?
Ding dong, motherfuckers. It's the Bell Sisters. My
We're
name
back.
is Cassidy,
I'm Casey.
and this is Bell on
Bell
Earth
on fucking Earth.
podcast.
Yeah. The podcast.
So we wanted to do a quick mini-sode today because there's been something brewing on TikTok that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, TikTok.
I love TikTok, I have to say. I do think it's a toxic, horrible platform, but in the same way that Twitter was
In the
a
same way that
toxic,
we
horrible.
are.
Yeah.
That's why we relate.
Yeah. Oh my god, I miss Twitter.
I do miss Twitter. And fuck X. We will never call it X.
No. But it used to be really fun, and now it's just gotten horrible.
Yeah, I don't even use it. There's no
no.
point.
No.
It's been ruined.
It's been so ruined. And I think TikTok's kind of going to that place, but it is still kind of fun, I think.
At least with TikTok, you can kind of, if you're purposeful with it, you can kind of shift your algorithm.
Yeah.
So you are, it can be a endless void, but if you end up in the right void, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of my videos right now are either TikTok drama, which I love TikTok drama.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of educational videos that come up on my feed, as well as mukbangs. 'Cause
Most
I love
importantly.
that, yeah.
We love a good mukbang.
But I always have the international mukbangs on my channel, so it's interesting different foods from other countries and stuff, and I like that kind of content.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I love learning about the snacks from different places.
Yeah, there's this one girl I follow, I forget her handle, but her name is Andy. Shout out to Andy. But she was in Korea for a while, and her channel was literally just going to different restaurants and trying different things.
It's so cool.
It was so fun. And then now she's back in Ukraine, and she just eats food at her grandma's house, and it's amazing.
Good for her.
I know, that's her basically her whole channel, and it's so good.
And I bet she probably makes a bit of money off of it.
I think she makes a little bit, yeah. But it's so
To
fucking
just
good.
eat food at grandma's?
Yeah, and her grandma's food is interesting because they make a lot of their own stuff, and her grandma has a garden, and even the stuff that they don't necessarily make, it's just more interesting Ukrainian stuff, and or it's stuff that her grandma finds from other people, things like that.
Well, I just think food in general is really fascinating because you can learn a lot about a culture from what they eat and how they eat it and the ritual of eating.
Yes. It's so fascinating to me, and there's so many different rules and also traditions, and it's just so fascinating and interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of leads us into our little topic for today, which is the orange peel theory. Yes. So if you haven't heard, there's a new theory going around TikTok that I've seen a lot of people talk about, and I think it's so fascinating. And it's called the orange peel theory, and basically the crux of this theory is that if you ask a partner to do a minor thing, such as peel an orange or get you a cup of water or something, that's going to show you how much you can trust your partner, and it leads you to see what will happen if you were to ask them to do a bigger thing. And I think this theory is so fucking interesting because there's so many different viewpoints on this, and I kind of agree and disagree with it, and I just wanted to do a little bit of a riff on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think it's just really fascinating, number one, that we are testing our partners, right? I get that,
I know we're all fucking psychologists now, huh?
I know, we're all fucking, yeah, psychologists. It's ridiculous. But it's also that's kind of like the point of dating, is it not? Like,
Yeah.
to see if you're compatible with someone and see, like, if they're gonna, like, be a good partner.
Yeah, I think if there's a difference between, like, purposely, like, manipulating people versus, like, doing things to see if they're the right fit for you and if you work out well and, like, you mesh well.
Yes. Yeah. And
Because it can weed a lot of people out.
yeah. But I do think that that's, like, something that we just maybe need to be a little bit more aware of in our personal lives. I do think that a lot of people end up in relationships just because they're lonely or they're bored or, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, if you're casually with someone, that's one thing. But if you're, like, starting to get more serious, like, at some point, you have to kind of be like, I don't want to do this. And you kind of just have to be mature about it.
Yeah.
And
which is hard for a lot of people.
I think most people are, like, really bad at being, like, mature
Yeah.
about things. And it's weird.
Because, like, most adults are just grown-up children.
Yeah.
Just repeating cycles over and over and over.
I truly believe that the majority of us have not gotten past, like, basic, like, evolution, to be honest. Because, like, there's, like, I forget what his name is, but there's, like, that theory of when children are growing up, you have, like, the me versus me, and then it's me versus they, and then it's us versus them, and that's how you kind of are meant to, like, grow and evolve as, like, a human being. And most of us are still at the me versus them.
Yeah.
And have no ability to, like, get past that. And it's, like, really weird and harmful.
But it also, like, once you realize that, of course about yourself, but, like, especially about other people, it kind of makes life easier.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, like, literally nothing is really that personal.
Yeah. And that's why I like the orange peel theory to some degree, because I do think it's a little bit helpful to see if people are actually going to care about you. But I also don't know if it necessarily should be, like, a test. I think it should be more of, like, noticing things while you're with someone.
Yes.
So, like, a lot of the examples of the orange peel theory are kind of also really stupid and dumb. Like, I saw people who were talking about, like, how they ask their partners to, like, tie their hair up or, like, do their shoes or whatever. And, of course, like, it really just depends on the person and stuff like that. But there's certain things where it's like, why should I do that for you? Like, It's kind of just weird for you to ask me to, like, tie up your hair. Unless I'm, like, a professional stylist or something. But there's people who, like, legitimately just don't know how to do hair. Or may not know how to, like, do a certain little task. And so, like, asking them to do that, even if it's like, well, this is just a little task and, like, most people can do it. And it's like, well, there's certain things that not everyone can do. And I don't necessarily think that means that they're not going to be a good partner. But I do think that, like, if someone refuses to do any little task for you, that's a big red flag and a sign that, like, maybe this isn't working. And I also think that, this is, like, the last point I think I'm going to make here, but I also think that just because there's red flags in people doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person. It just means that you're not in a good relationship. Because I do think that, like, there's been relationships where I definitely have not, like, wanted to do little tasks for other people, and there's relationships where I did.
Yeah.
And it's just because I didn't like the person. I was like, why am I going to do this for you?
Right.
Or we weren't compatible or whatever.
Right. Absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, I guess this has always, like, kind of been a thing, but I think, like, especially with the surge of social media and, like, TikTok and all that kind of stuff, like, the concept of what a red flag even is has very much gone astray. Because, like, I'm sorry, but a lot of things are also situational.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like, just going with simply, like, the orange peel concept itself.
Right.
Like
asking someone to peel an orange for you.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, if I've had a long fucking day and I'm on the couch and, like, you're up and doing things and you ask me to peel the orange, I'm gonna be like, no, peel your own fucking orange. I'm literally tired and on the couch right now.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, of course, if it's, like, a regular day and, like, we're all up and happy and fine, like, that's a different story.
Yeah, I think that, like, gauging someone's emotions is also like part of being in a relationship, and if you like can't do that, and I'm not saying that like, you know, maybe you can't read someone's face or something like that. I just mean that like if your partner expressed that they had a bad day and a long day, and you're gonna like do some stupid
and you're
shit like that.
Peel my orange.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Like, I had a great day, but I want to make you do it.
Yeah. Exactly. Or, like, this is an example in my own life. I had an incident that I was so angry about. Because it was literally, like, I had just gotten home. It was 11 p.m. I had just gotten off a flight. And my partner had asked me to, like, do all these things. Literally didn't even ask how my trip was, didn't say anything. And they were just like, well, I need you to do this, this, and that. And I was like, I literally just got home from a trip.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
That's not an appropriate time to ask me to do things. Like, I don't mind doing little things or helping out or even doing larger things. Like, I have no issue with, like, helping people move or, like, taking people to the airport or, like, being there for someone in a really hard time. But, like, there's a time and a place to ask me to do those things. And also, like, there's some common courtesy, right? Like, where if you have someone who's special in your life, like, you should ask them, like, how their day is.
And also, in that kind of situation, I feel like it almost should be the reverse, where it's like, I know you just came back from a trip and you're going to be exhausted and tired. Therefore, not only am I not going to ask you to do these things, but, like, let me, like, get your clothes ready for you. Let me unpack your bags.
Yeah.
Let me, like, make dinner for you.
And, yeah, exactly. And, like, I think there's this, like, surge of, like, this idea that relationships should be 50-50. And while I agree with that, you have to understand, right, but you have to understand that, like, most days, like, it's not going to be 50-50. Like, it should be 50-50 overall, like,
Yes.
in the long standing of your relationship. Like, most things should be, like, equaling out to 50-50, but there's going to be days where I do 80 and you do 20, or there's going to be days where I do, like, 30 and you do 60 or whatever. That's not...
Wow.
I meant 70.
Cassie's a sociology major, not math.
Yeah, I'm not a math major. But, you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be days where, like, I'm obviously going to be carrying more of that weight and doing more stuff and picking up more of the pieces, like, just depending on the situation. There may even be months where, like, if you, like, are going through a hard time or you're just, like, not doing well, like, whatever, like, then at some point you have to pick up the slack, right? Like, of the other person. But, like, it's not going to be that every day where you're, like, 50-50. And it shouldn't be every day where I'm doing 80 and you're doing 20. Right? Like,
that's the other thing about it.
You have to, like, have that balance. And again, I think that's where, like, a lot of it gets misconstrued. Because it's, like, you can't expect someone to do 50-50 every single day. You also can't expect someone to do 80-20 every day. Like, it has to be balanced over time.
Yeah. And also doesn't have to be, like... For example, if you prefer to do laundry and I prefer to do dishes, like, that's also equal. It doesn't mean, like, I have to do laundry half the time and you do laundry. Like, it can be split between, like, what we're good at, what we prefer, and, like, what makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, as long as, like, the caseload is handled in a proper way, like, that's what really matters.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think that a lot of these concepts are decent concepts, but they get misconstrued often and then, like, turned into these whole fucking things where then you, like, destroy a relationship that actually might be really good.
Yeah.
And then, on the flip side, I also feel like a lot of these concepts get misconstrued as good things because, like, people who are manipulative, like, if you ask them in a good phase of your relationship to peel an orange, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But that's, like, where it's, like, love bombing. Like, people are gonna love bomb you like hell and then turn into a fucking abusive prick. Like, that's a manipulator, right? Whereas, like, someone who's not trying to manipulate you may still, like, do nice things for you, but they're not going to do it all the time. Yeah. And they shouldn't have to do it all the time. Like, we should make each other feel special, right? Like, when you're in a relationship, but, like, doing little things on a daily basis and then doing bigger things every once in a while is, like, just as good.
Yeah.
As, like, I don't know. Like, I think it's cute that someone would bring home flowers every day, But that's also, like, it really depends on the person. And it's also something where it's like, I don't know, are you doing this because you actually, like, know that I enjoy flowers?
Right.
Or are you doing this because, like,
you want something from me?
Exactly.
Or, like, you're trying to, like, manipulate me in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or there's another TikTok story that I saw that I thought was really interesting, and it's something that I've seen personally in my life. But it was this story about how, like, this girl broke up with her, I think it was her husband. I think it was a Reddit story, and I saw it on TikTok. But it was, like, someone who broke up with their husband because they bought a cruise for their birthday. And when you read the title, it sounds really weird. Like, that sounds like, well, she must be a bitch.
Right.
But this is something that had gone on for the majority of their relationship. So the whole thing was that she gets really, really seasick, and she hates cruises because she does not enjoy them. The other part of it is that she had already planned to take a vacation for a week to do a Renaissance fair. And it was, like, I guess in a different city, which is why she had planned to do it for a week or whatever. So she had already planned out something for her birthday, already had these plans set in place, already had stuff booked, and then her husband comes home with this expensive cruise that she didn't want to go on and doesn't like cruises and already had a trip planned, and he brought home, like, this gift that he would enjoy, so he just was like, well, you should enjoy it too because I enjoy it.
And then she seems like the asshole for being like, I don't want to go on this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's also a big problem when people do shit like that. Like, that's not cute. Like, doing shit because you like it is not nice to do to someone else. Like, that's not nice. It's not nice to buy someone a cruise if they're gonna get sick on the cruise and not enjoy themselves for their birthday. And also telling them to cancel their plans that they already had.
Yeah, especially for their own birthday.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
That's
First of all, you should
mean.
be asking them what they want.
Yeah. No, that really got to me because, like, again, it's something that, like, I've noticed happen in my life, and I'm like, oh my god, like, that's something that you, like, I think push down sometimes because it's like, well, they did do this nice gesture, but
how nice is it if
it's
they're, like,
not nice.
paying it? Because even if it's, like, well intended, that also shows that, like, you're not paying attention to me, and, like, you're not interested in the things that I care about.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, you will book a trip. Because especially something like seasickness. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're married,
yeah,
most likely, like, you know quite a bit about this person.
Yeah.
And, like, if they're that seasick to the point where, like, they would be sick on a cruise, like, you would probably know that.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, obviously, I don't know them and their circumstance. Yeah.
No, like, yeah, you don't know their circumstance, but, like, at
assume.
some point in their relationship, it would have been like, hey, like, I don't go on boats because I get really seasick.
Yeah.
Or, like, come on. Also, my other thing with that is that, like, how can you come home with a gift that, first of all, she doesn't like, but also that takes precedence over something she's already planned?
Well, that's what I was gonna say, too, is that, like, if she already has this trip planned that she wants to do, then, like, in my mind, I would just be like, all right, like, I'll book everything and let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I know that you want to do it, so, like, I'll pay for it. Like, and if you're gonna pay for a fucking trip, like, let me pay for it.
I think that's what the real orange peel theory should be. Yeah, because, like, she had also mentioned, like, other stuff in that story where it was like he bought her flowers, but
she's, like, allergic.
Well, yeah, imagine. Well, no, it was like she really liked, I don't remember exactly what flower it was, but she like something like marigolds or something like that, and that was, like, her favorite flower because it was, like, something very special to her and her grandma. And she had, like, asked her husband to pick up flowers at the store and asked him to pick up marigold, and he came home with a bucket of roses.
Right.
And she was like, that's not what I asked you to do. I asked for marigolds. And he was like, well, roses are nicer. And it's like, but you're not, like, getting the point. And again, that's, like, where I actually think the orange peel theory is much better in terms of, like, I ask you to do something, and you may think that what you're doing is nice, but you're actually, like, disrespecting me.
Yes.
Because I have this meaning behind this flower. And that's why it means so much to me, and that's why I asked for it. I didn't ask for roses. And that, I think, can point out, like, okay, this is where our issues are. Like, you're not listening to me. You don't care about the same things that I do.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there is someone out there who might also enjoy roses, and then, like, you can find them. But that's not who I am, you know?
That's where, like, even a good person can be a bad partner.
Yes, yeah.
Because, like, they can, exactly like what you're saying, like, they can buy someone flowers, which, like, yeah, that's great and that's so sweet. But, like, to be a partner to someone, like, if, I don't know, like, if you're bringing the flowers to your neighbor, that's fine. That's one thing. Because, like, you don't have to, like, know them on that level.
Yeah.
But, like, your partner, like, if you're going to spend your fucking life with someone, like,
you should know their favorite flower.
not only should you, but, like, why wouldn't you want to?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to spend your whole fucking life with someone that you don't even, like, know on that level?
Yeah.
That's what I don't get.
It's so weird. Relationships
Like, do you just want the company?
Yeah.
Like, at that point.
Relationships are always so weird to me because you find out all these things that are going on behind the scenes and you're like,
yeah.
whoa, that's really bad.
Yeah. And, like, I mean, people love to be like, oh, like, divorces are, like, increasing nowadays and act like that's a bad thing. But I'm like, that's good, actually, because people are realizing that, oh, I don't have to fucking be stuck with someone who I don't like anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally healthy to have that realization. Because, like, I'm sorry, but not every single time, honestly, probably in, like, a good portion of cases, like, people don't always get married out of, like, pure love. You know, there are, like, extenuating circumstances that people get married for. Or even, like, just because they're young and they think they're in love, but then realize that they're not. And honestly, that's also completely valid.
Yeah. Well, also, too, I do think that it's very, very valid to be fully in love with someone and then fall out of love with them.
Yeah.
And, like, that can happen after, like, 20 plus years. Like, it just happens sometimes. Like, sometimes, but you have to be mature and say, like, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore. Like, I'm really sorry, but I just don't think this is working out.
Yeah.
And, like, it does suck when you've been with someone for that long, but it also just happens. Like, sometimes it really does just happen.
Yeah.
I will say with the whole thing on divorces is that, number one, that statistic is skewed. They typically, what they'll do to, like, get the number of divorces is they will divide the amount married per year by the people who get divorced per year, and that's, like, not accurate because, like, the people who got married are typically not the ones getting divorced within 1 year.
Yeah.
So you can't,
like,
really
I'm not
use
a mathematician, but the math isn't mathing.
You literally can't use that number. It's inaccurate. Number two, more people are getting divorced now because they literally can't just, like, up and leave.
Yeah.
Like, before, like, records and, like, the internet and stuff like that, like, you could just up and leave, go to another state, another country, and just, like, live your life.
Yeah, just
and you don't have to,
completely
like,
change your life.
yeah, you just ghost them. Like,
no
you
one
don't have to,
knows.
yeah.
Right.
You don't have to, like, be in this person's life anymore.
And also, like, the most obvious one is that, like, for a very long time, like, females, women couldn't even get a divorce themselves.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously the number's gonna be higher if, like, more people are, like, able to have access to it.
Exactly.
Like, that's just, like, basic knowledge.
Exactly. But, yeah, exactly. And it's also, like, that's why I like, hate when people talk about it, because it's, like, literally inaccurate statistics. You're not taking into all the nuances into account.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them. But the other thing, like you said, I do think that it's fine to get a divorce. Like, I really don't see the issue with this, especially if you're not working with that person anymore. Like, it's way better for you and them and any children that you may have
Especially
to be
children.
out of that situation. And, like, yes, co-parenting can be a real bitch, and it really does depend, and it's definitely not, like, a easy situation to be in, just depending on the relationship. But ultimately, in a lot of them, like, if you're literally just staying together for the kids, like, most of the time, that's, like, kind of a decision that you're just putting a lot of pain and hurt and stress onto everyone in the family.
Yeah. Like, a lot of the times, those kind of people act like they're the martyr.
Yeah.
But they're really the oppressor.
Yes. That's a really good way of putting it.
And
I
it's
love
kind of
that.
sad, because it's like, I don't think that a lot of those people, like, mean that. But at the same time, like, that's how it ends up being. Like, if you are not happy with someone and you have to live with them, like, it's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless, like, you're really, really good at just, like, being cordial with each other, which most people aren't.
Yeah.
Especially on, like, a day-to-day basis.
Right.
But, like, it's usually pretty obvious to your kids that you don't like each other. And now you're giving your children a skewed version of, like, what love is and, like, what it means to, like, care for someone.
Exactly. It's the exact same concept as giving someone who asked for marigolds roses.
Yes.
Like, you're giving people what they didn't ask for, and that's not a nice thing. It's not nice to do that to people. It's not nice just because you think it's nice. Like, do actually what's best for people, which would be to put especially children into a, like, safe situation, not
Like,
one that's hostile.
Sorry, not to cut you off. But, like, if anything, it, like, is better for the children to see their parents go through a healthy divorce.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, if I'm in a relationship that I'm not happy in, then it's an option to not be with someone and still, like, be okay with them. Because there are also so many times where, sure, this is, like, very situational. There are some people who, like, abuse their partners, and, like, obviously you don't really want to be on good terms with them. But there are a lot of times when, like, you just don't work out and, like, you need to separate, and, like, they'll still be, like, nasty with each other in front of their children for, like, no
Yeah.
fucking reason. And I'm like, you're just teaching your children that that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's
you're
disgusting.
the adult in this situation. Like, you should be fucking mature.
Yeah.
And, like, agreed that, you know, there are situations where it's like, okay, not going to deal with you anymore, and I'm going to get as far away from you as possible.
Yeah.
But there also are situations where you can be angry at someone and still recognize that maybe they fucked up and they did something wrong, but, you know, they're not necessarily a bad person. They did a bad thing and our relationship has ended, but I can still have a cordial existence, particularly for my kids who I don't want things to get worse for. Yeah. Again, if that's something that is going to, like, harm you, then that's one thing. But if it's not, then, like, I don't understand how so many people are just so selfish in, I don't know, it's just selfish. It's selfish to be in a relationship where you don't want to be there, and it's selfish to force other people, particularly children, to be in a relationship that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
That's selfish.
And I think that's very much a sign of someone, like, not being able to look inward, because we all know that person who's like, every single one of my exes are insane.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like, statistically speaking, probably not.
Yeah.
You're probably the fucking problem.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, listen, do I talk to my exes? Like, not really. I'm, like, cordial with them, but, like, I don't really talk to them. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like, there's a reason that I dated all of them.
Yeah.
And, like, did we work out? No. And, like, again, like we were saying before, you can be a good person and a bad partner.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who are just bad partners. And, like, that still doesn't necessarily take away the fact that they're a good person. And again,
No.
I don't have to keep them in my life, but, like, to sit there and have so much animosity towards them is honestly showing more about me and my inability to, like, understand where other people come from.
Yeah.
And, like, understand that, like, not everyone is, like, perfect and meant for me, versus, like, them just being a crazy person.
It's again, like, the me versus them.
Yes.
Like, you literally have not gone past the stage of a toddler.
Yeah.
And it's also, like, again, like, you know, to be honest, it's one thing if you have animosity towards someone, but, like, to then put it on, like, another human being, like, that's
Right.
not anyone else's problem that you don't like this person.
And especially when
outside
it's
of the
children.
fact of if they, like, hurt someone and then you're like, whatever. But, like, again, like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about that. We're talking about, like, kind of, like, just a normal situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yarr.
I think we're really smart.
It was so out of pocket.
Yeah, it was really out of pocket, right?
But, like, I do that a lot, too. Like, sometimes I'll, like, just be saying things, and I'm like, I said that. My brain, like, put those things together. And she's so right.
I must be a genius.
Wow.
But I think that was a really good conversation.
I think so, too. Moral of the story, we're really smart and cool and fantastic partners because we understand.
Yeah.
Some things. We just understand.
We understand.
We overstand, actually.
Yeah, we definitely overstand.
Low-key, like,
our
that's
boundaries.
our problem, though, is that
Yeah.
we do overstand.
It's true.
We need to stop understanding.
And start.
Just standing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just standing. That's a really good one.
I don't think so, but thank you.
And with that,
Bye!
thank you for listening to Bell on Earth, the podcast. We hope that your minds have been expanded and your pussies have been opened.
Be sure to rate and follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music.
This podcast is brought to you by Free Studio Productions. It's hosted and produced by Cassidy and Casey Bell. Big thanks to our executive producer, Derek Benton.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook for all of your content needs. See you later, haters.